Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Talk of Louisville. I'm Mike Mulrooney.
Kelly Duckworth.
Kelly, what a weekend!
I'm exhausted. You can't tell still. I don't know how you do it.
I tell you, well, the good thing is I didn't really drink anything this weekend because usually I have a few cocktails, but given our circumstances and what we had to pull off at the last minute was pretty incredible. So, this weekend was our big Cabo party.
It was a great turnout.
And it's about a 4-day thing for us. Granted, it's planning throughout the year, but it's literally 4 days of setup and getting people together and putting a party on and breaking it down. Well, Melwood gave us an ultimatum Thursday that said we had to be out by 2 a.m. and we're usually there the next day cleaning up. So
I think I preferred Saturday night cleanup though.
it wasn't bad. We had enough people do it
all day yesterday.
I know it was a little stressful. But yeah, it was good. We still got a lot to get all of our stuff out, all of our trucks. We got stuff everywhere. It takes a lot to put this party on, about 110 volunteers. And it's pretty incredible, but it was a good time.
I'm confused why you're wearing a Steelers shirt, though. He's a Cowboys fan, if y'all didn't know that. So.
Well, we sponsored a young kids team this year.
There's kids on it. I see.
Called the Shepherdsville Steelers, and they surprised me with one of their shirts. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
Cute.
I love it. Yeah, as a Cowboys fan, I can appreciate. It's been. You're a Cowboys fan too,
I would never wear a Steelers shirt, but I'd probably wear that.
Well, I would for these young men. Yeah. It's amazing, and the families and parents are pretty credible. So they sent me a shirt, and I thought I would wear it today. But yeah, being a Cowboys fan has been lonely over the past 30 years.
I don't think I've ever seen them go past playoffs. So
yeah, well,
lifetime.
You were born after they won the Super Bowls.
Yeah, I don't.
97, right?
Yeah.
She's a young pup. Anyway, we have a very, very special guest and friend of ours here today, Miss Amanda Mills. How are you doing?
I'm tired, but I am great.
She's with Southend Street Angels. And before we go, we're going to talk about one good friend of ours, Mr. Alan Freeman. Alan Freeman, a Freeman Service Company, does lawn landscaping, and he was an absolute lifesaver this weekend on snow removal. So many people were out busy. I had a few people say, if the price is right, and Alan didn't say a word. He reached out, said, how can I help? He cleaned off some of our lots. I know he cleaned off Exodus's lots. I think he did Voice of Truth for the shelters that we're going to talk about. So Alan he's not only an amazing individual, but he can do all kinds of stuff. I think he does decks and fences and lawn and landscaping, snow removal. He's kind of a jack all trades. So please take a picture of that phone number, write it down for all of your needs. Please call Alan. He is one of the nicest people you ever meet and a hard worker and just an absolute kind soul. So please keep Alan in your, I was going to say Rolodex. You know what a Rolodex is?
I think it's a thing with the names of the phone numbers in it or something.
Kelly's never seen a Rolodex. We're going to get you one.
Yeah,
we might have one donated at Deals so she can see what it looks like. So we got the amazing Amanda Mills here. And Amanda, I tell you what, we're going to talk about what you and some people pulled off over the past couple of weeks with the winter vortex we had in Louisville. But I really want to talk about your story and your passion for helping people who are in the unhoused community. I've seen you post several times, and I've heard you talk about it. But you were in that situation one time. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I've experienced houselessness 5 times in my life, starting at the age of 3, and 17, 22, 24, and 26.
Unbelievable. Was it just moving around and things didn't work out, or is it you've talked about it multiple times about being invisible in a room full of people, and that really hit me when you said that. And it's hard to put your thoughts around that, especially with all the things that you do now.
Yeah, so the reason why I say I felt invisible in a world full of people was because, I navigated a system blindly. I didn't have the support systems. At 3 years old, I ended up in a domestic violence shelter with my mom. At 17, I lived at the YMCA Safe Place for 3 weeks and ended up living with my high school math teacher, Steve Heber from PRP High School. He's not here anymore. He's in Tennessee, but and his lovely wife and their kids. They believed in me. I stayed with them for about a year, and I moved out. Then I entered into a relationship with a man who I thought that loved me, and I loved him, and he beat me and left me to die. My neighbor found me.
As feisty as you are, I can't see you dealing very well with that.
Yeah, so I'm a totally different person today. I've healed out loud, and it's funny because earlier it's like that I'm very transparent, and that's why, because sometimes people heal better out loud. And I always tell people in my line of work that we heal by helping other people heal. And if you met any of the volunteers over the past week and a half, you would learn that, all of them have some type of experience, lived experience. And when they do these types of volunteer activities, it does bring some type of closure and healing to them because we're no longer a victim. We're survivors. And I was homeless again at 24 because of my life circumstances. I abused alcohol and ended up getting evicted. And that was in the middle of February when sleet and snow was coming down. And then at 26, I think that was just, poor planning. I stayed with a friend. They got evicted. So then we just both whatever. But I stayed the course. And then my life really changed when my son Isaac was born. I made a vow to him that he would never live the life I did, and I meant it, and I've stood by that. My son doesn't have a father in his life, so it's been me and him kicking it for 9 years, going on 10. And he's never went without a basic need, never been homeless, never nothing. In fact, they're too spoiled. But one thing I love about him is that, and you've seen yourself, my son loves to help people.
Yeah.
And he loves to give. And, if there's one thing I can teach them, is that, you can be anything you want to be when you grow up, and he'll be quick to tell you that. But I also want them to know there's another life out there. Like other people go through these things. And I'm really grateful for my kids because, like I always say, I gave them life, but they saved mine.
Well, and only reason I bring these things up because I know you're public about it, but you've also made a huge life change. And I don't know how to put this in a politically correct way in front of a woman because both of you are going to smack me. So I don't know.
Well,
I mean, you had a
fan.
huge health life change that you made, and I didn't recognize you. I hadn't seen you in about a while back, and then I was like, "Who is that?" I mean, you made a huge life change. I don't know if you want to talk about because it's
Yeah.
very inspiring. Because there's a lot of people out there that struggle with the unhoused and addiction that you've got through, but also with what you did with your body and how you changed your life for the healthy reasons.
Yeah. So when I was houseless as a kid, and we were poor, we were really poor. So
But the thing about what you just said, and it's leaning into what you're gonna talk about, is when you're unhoused, you eat unhealthy stuff, and the unhealthy stuff, unfortunately, in today's world, is the cheapest way to eat to keep substance in your stomach. So anyway, go ahead.
yeah, so we did eat cheap stuff, and sometimes we went without food. So when food was accessible,
You got gorged yourself.
I would hoard it.
Yeah.
Like I would hide loaves of bread and packs of bologna in my room. I would go home after school, and I would stuff myself full. It made me feel good because it sets off these dopamine effects in your mind. So it's just as food is just as addicting as drugs and
Yes,
alcohol.
absolutely.
And so my coping mechanism for years was to eat. And, no matter what, I learned to navigate to get food. And I would put that at the top of my priorities. I would wait till my kids went to bed and eat 2 large pizzas and 2 liters of diet, or not diet, but
Regular
regular
Coke, yeah.
Pepsi. I would sit there and watch 600-pound
Pepsi or
Life.
Coke?
Pepsi. I'd sit there and watch 600-pound Life stuffing ice cream down my throat.
Watching that, probably thinking, I don't want to look like them, but they're on TV, so I'm watching them.
Right. And so I could relate. So while watching their traumas, it just added more to mine. Transfer trauma is real. And we can talk about that here in a minute. But um, so 2.5 years, almost 3 years ago, I embarked on a journey called my Eat, Pray, and Love journey. And it's a story of hope and redemption. I realized I had a problem. My provider gave me a life expectancy of 5 to 10 years. I was at 437 pounds, March of 2022.
Wow.
And I knew that if I didn't change my lifestyle, my kids wouldn't even be adults and they wouldn't be here. And I'm all my son has. And no surgeon would help me. So I started navigating, and I found, and I'm going to give him a shout out on here, Dr. John Samuel Oldham with Baptist Health Louisville. That man believed in me. My BMI was at 65, and no surgeon would do a gastric sleeve on an individual with that high of a BMI.
I thought that was the purpose of it, is to help people with high BMIs. I guess not.
Well, they typically want to do gastric bypass for that high of a BMI
Okay.
because of the health risk. But Dr. Oldham did do my procedure. It removed 85% of my stomach, and has been with me now going on almost 3 years. And I went from 437 and now I'm at 176.
Oh my goodness.
So
Well, I wouldn't have guessed that. You look tiny, but you're very tall for a woman. What are you, about 6 foot tall?
5'11".
Yeah, I thought you were pretty tall. So, That's just inspiring because so many people, you've hit a lot of things that people struggle with, and you've beat them. You should be so proud of what you've been able to do. It's just inspiring to see the stuff that you've been able to pull off. So Southend Street Angels, what do you all do?
Southend Street Angels actually started out just as a homeless outreach, and now we are a community outreach. When I first started, I literally walked Taylor and Barry handing out peanut butter jellies I made at home and blankets that I had. And then about 3 weeks later, I had a group of like 5 friends and stuff that were out there, and they brought their stuff. And here we are, 8 years later, and we have grown to helping first responders with calls, helping place domestic violence victims into hotels when the shelter is full. We have 2 blessing pantries that are accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no questions asked. We have assisted with bus tickets home and reuniting families. We do weekly street outreach every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. We'd love to have you. And then most recently, over the last, this is our 5th year doing it, is emergency pop-up shelters during inclement weather. There were no shelters in the southern part of Jefferson County, and nobody was taking the initiative to do it. So I reached out to churches and things like that, and that's where we normally host our pop-ups. But this year we had a restaurant, and we'll talk about that in just a
Yeah,
minute.
we'll get to that. But you said just one thing I want to get to because I absolutely love these people, and there's bad apples in every bunch. But you said you help first responders with outreach. So does that mean you work with LMPD here in Louisville, which again, there's bad apples in every bunch, but the large majority of LMPD, I absolutely love our police officers here in Louisville. No. So do they call you when they have like some kids or something that, I mean, we want to start providing them with stuffed animals and stuff like that so they can hand to kids when they're in abusive situations. So how do you get involved with that?
Yeah, it's just all about building relationships.
But do they call you?
Yeah, they do call. And now we've assisted Linden Police. They had a gentleman with cancer who couldn't afford food and things like that. He's actually going through radiation. With your support and things like that, this year we've been able to meet that need very quickly. Actually, Linden police officer came and picked up the stuff and then took it to him. And so I thought it was pretty cool. J-Town Police, they also have a REACH program. But when we started the pop-up shelter, we let them know we have this, and they called on us. And one of their referrals to us was breaking into a hotel, an old abandoned hotel, to stay warm. And instead of arresting him for trespassing, they called us. We got him a lift. It was in the middle of the night. Got him to the streetery at the time. And 2 days later, he went to recovery at Yonder Recovery.
So I think that's probably obviously you got a heart for helping people on the streets, but I think the ultimate goal is if you can show some passion, someone some passion and love, maybe they'll turn their life around. So that person got into recovery because y'all actually offered them a hand and tried to help them out.
Yeah, so that's one thing Street Angels is really big about. We don't do handouts.
Yeah.
We do hand ups.
Sorry, I get a little tore up sometimes.
It's okay. and so what we want to do is we want to find out, we meet people where they are. We find out what their need is. We don't tell them what their needs are. Because if you sit down with a grown person and you say, you need to do this, this, and this, they're going to automatically shut you down.
You have to make them feel welcome.
Right. And I don't want somebody telling me what I need to do. This is my life.
Yeah.
Whether they are in an active addiction, whether they have major mental illness, I don't know. Not everybody. House Bill 5 says that everybody that is homeless needs recovery. That is not true.
Yeah.
Let that be on record for me. But and those are things that we'll work towards to navigate and amend. But we are really big on meeting people where they are. And he had to be ready. He plays a part. And I tell them when I meet with them or a volunteer meets with them to connect them to resources, you got to put in the work, because the second I work harder than you, it's not going to work. So anybody that ever comes back and says thank you or gets on our post or talks about us that got their life together, they're really the ones that got their life together. We just do what we call warm handoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And we also follow through, and we don't make promises because sometimes life happens and we can't keep those. But we'll say we will do the best that we can to do what we can to help you.
Yeah, that's incredible. I had a really good thought, and it just slipped my mind for a second. But
because I was talking too much.
No, you do fantastic. It's just amazing. We watched you along with one of our Metro Council people. You worked closely with her, but you led the charge on this. You mentioned something about the House bill, and we talked about this before. The original House bill was to stop crime, and somebody grabbed that bill and added stuff in there for the unhoused people. I'm trying to use the proper terminology. So, and they took that bill, but the problem is, I think they wrote that bill, but they didn't get involved and they didn't get in contact with the people that are and I think that's the problem a lot of times in this world. People sit in an office and think they know what's best, but they don't go ask the professionals that are out on the streets doing it every day. But I don't think it was intended to try and incarcerate people. It's we really want to come up with some sort of creative solution to give them some hope. I think is what we need to do in this world.
Yeah, because currently we have 3 street brothers and sisters incarcerated for 280 days at Louisville Metro Corrections. I don't feel like that's maximizing our tax dollars.
Mm-mm.
I feel like it's also going to build a wedge that we've worked really hard, because when I first started doing outreach with LMPD and the houseless population, there was no trust or rapport. And now we have officers riding around with snack packs and hand warmers and calling us. And so we've made tremendous strides. And it's not just me. I will not take credit. I have not taken credit. I don't do any
And that's
of this
okay.
for
That's
clout.
I get it, but that's okay. You've got to. You know, you're a passionate voice for this problem, and you're going to be part of the solution, I think, to fixing this. And I've seen a lot of people say some nasty comments, and people have said post and ghost, and I'm starting to do that because we catch a lot of crap too about the stuff we do. But you know, if you don't talk about what you do, people are going to say, I donated money and I never see them do anything about it.
Yeah, but one thing I can say real quick, sorry to cut you off. One thing I can say is we do not take photos of individuals that we serve.
Correct.
That is one of the rules. If you
Unless they
volunteer
give you
with-
permission.
Right. Or they ask, like little Conway. You know, we
Yeah.
posted his, he was gun ho. He was like, man, this is awesome. And he wanted everyone to know how grateful he was that those doors were open. I even asked his mom, I was like, yeah, I don't want anyone to feel exploited. The gentleman who did the news interview, I told all of them, you don't have to speak to them. You don't have to speak to them. I don't want you to. He said, no, it's important that they know what they're doing right now.
Yeah. You know, we see all the commercials, and we don't do commercials in that way, but you know, you see the commercials of the undernourished animals and to get people to donate, and you see the kids with cancer they put on TV. There's a reason they do that. And if the parents give permission for you to do that, I'm not saying exploit it, but people have to see the need. People tie pictures with pain and not just words. So you can type all you want. Nobody's going to read it. But if they see a picture or they watch a video, it changes them emotionally, I really think. So I highly encourage you, not for exploitation, but to let people know, because once they see your passion, and we talked about this, and the things that you do, they're going to say, oh, I get it now. But you know, it's those one small less than 1% of the armchair quarterbacks are going to say something nasty. We got to all have to tune it out. I'm not good at it right now. Kelly will slap me sometimes and say, hey,
Well, and I
don't
think
do
the
that.
family that you helped right before Christmas. I mean, I had heard of you obviously and what you all had done, but until we saw those videos, really, I mean, my age group and people, you know, my friends, that was amazing.
Didn't know.
I had no idea. I mean, and that tore everybody up, and then I think that really gets people's attention.
Yeah, for sure. So keep it up. Keep it up. So, you know, something really big happened over the past few weeks with this winter vortex. So how did you pull that off? I mean, it was incredible. You had the connections. We had a little bump, and we'll talk about that briefly. But, you know, we had almost, I'd say, 1.5 feet of snow over about 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
People were out in the weather. What did you do? You just started contacting people to see if they'd open their shelters or open their businesses?
Well, like I said, in the past 4 years, we've partnered with different locations. Voice of Truth has been truly amazing with Pastor Daniel Gex and Lady Laura Gex.
Laura Gex. Yeah.
Look, say that real fast 3 times. And they've partnered with us the past 3 years. And so typically what happens is when we know inclement weather's coming in, you know, we've built a good rapport and relationship and partnership. I say, hey, do y'all want to do this? Do y'all want to open your doors? And so that's just what we do. We open up the doors. Street Angels hits the streets. We bring people in. Breaking Chains was out there bringing people in. Exodus was operating during daytime hours. And so it becomes a community collaborative. So when we first started, it was really hard because you didn't have all these hands on deck. But this year was different because the expectation was over there. I had a council member call me the Saturday before and said, what pop-up are you doing this year? And I was like, oh, I don't think I'm doing any. By the end of the day, I had 3 pop-ups in a warming station. So I said, I'm going to start keeping my mouth shut, y'all. But I'm really glad that it happened. I'm glad that we have the partnership that we have, and really want to say thank you to Crystal Bass. Before obviously she had won the election, but before she was sworn in, she's been boots on the ground with us for at least since November. And before that, she was accessible for me and questions, but she has showed up, so she's really got to see the work that we do. So it gives me some type of hope that we'll have a voice in Metro Council now that will advocate for us, and for other homeless services that are already implemented. But one thing I have learned in this process is we've been trying to do things the past 5 to 10 years, and it's not working. And so now we need to figure out a new approach. And when we talk about in just a minute what happened, that's where we are now. And so I'm excited and I'm optimistic.
Well, you mentioned Crystal, and I'll be honest. I've said this before. I love Cindy Fowler. I will never take anything away from her. She's done a lot for Shirley's Way, an amazing human being. And I love Cindy. Crystal won, and Crystal's got, we call it the GSD group. That's what we call Shirley's Way, get shit done. Crystal's got a GSD group of friends that jumped in and helped do a lot of things.
Ashley Green.
Yeah, so the VFW post, Stephen Canfield out here in the South End opened up. Some of Crystal's friends stayed overnight to make sure that those people were taken care of. So they jumped in and made a huge difference. So we got Voice of Truth, Exodus, VFW. And then what happened to the Louisville Streeter with Mr. Young Tran? I met him Saturday night. You talk about a humble young man. Such an amazing young kid.
And I want everybody to know, back in Thanksgiving, I didn't know this till I got online and was looking at something. They actually opened up their doors and provided the whole community with free Thanksgiving meals.
Wow. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So he was doing this before. Like, he didn't tell me. I actually stumbled across it this morning.
And he's an immigrant from Vietnam. He told me. And his family came in here and have built what they've done.
Yeah.
So what happened? So he volunteered to open his doors, become an overnight shelter. Bam. People are in there. They're staying warm. And all of a sudden, what happened?
Yeah. So he reached out and he wanted to open the doors, but he didn't know how to do it. Yeah. So one of the things I'm really big on when it comes to community partnerships.
When he opened his doors, he shut his restaurant down.
Shut it down all the way. He talked to his employees.
Collected no income for a week and a half.
Yep.
Shut his doors to let people come in and get warm. So go ahead.
Yeah. And so he wanted to do it, but he didn't know how to go about it. So that's how the partnership with Street Angels came. He knew Rachel Brown, who's one of our board members who lives in the neighborhood, and got him connected. And so we said, hey, the partnership requires you to help bring volunteers in, because we're going to be on the streets. We're going to be collecting donations, things like that. We go over a few things. He committed. Everything is going great. It's going smooth. Lives are saved. The word's getting out, and people are coming in. And the fire inspector came in and said, shut it down immediately. And so,
which is heartbreaking. We were all mad. A bunch of us were on a group text. We probably said things we shouldn't have said amongst one another.
At night, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
evening?
So
they made them leave.
In case you all didn't know, it was literally, I got the word at 4:30, the night before the next round of snow was coming in. So, and we had to be shut down by the end of business, which was 9 p.m. Mind you, we got 4 individuals there. And while this was happening, 7 individuals came in, because at night they come in more. During the day, they're out walking around.
I don't care where you're at. When the sun goes down, it immediately drops 10, 15 degrees.
Yeah. And so that night, the media that was there, they got to witness it. And they were like, man, like they came in, we had to tell them no. But I will tell you this, the only people that went to the street that night were the people that wanted to stay in the area and go back, because my backup plan's got a backup plan.
You've always got a backup plan. But we learned a lot, and we were all aggravated. But after we sat down the next day, Kelly and I talked. You always got to wait till the next day before you start saying things, because you think differently the next day. And I'm not good at that. I'll be honest. I preach it, but I've got to have people slap me sometimes and say, "Hey, wait till the next morning." That's right. Yeah. She takes my phone and says I'm not allowed to do anything until the next day. So, but after level heads prevailed, we talked to, or you did, talk to a couple city officials. I know Nicole George has got a heart of gold. She was working with you pretty closely to try and figure out how to. But the problem is there's no process. I think what we learned is what they told Mr. Tran he had to have didn't exist. The permit they told him to have, he needed a permit, but nobody knows what permit. So we're trying to figure that out now.
It's a change of occupancy. So I did get clarification this morning from the fire marshal. Yeah. It's a change of occupancy because, yes, he's zoned for a business, but there's an inspection process to go through. The part that I expressed to them that frustrated me was they were more concerned about a potential emergency, such as a fire or something like that,
versus
than
the immediate
the
emergency.
immediate emergency.
Yep.
It's like, oh, you don't have the paperwork, so we're shutting you down. There was no grace period. There was no nothing. I even requested an extension for 24 hours just for that snow to get through and us to have time to come up with a plan. No. Even the violation said, hey, we're going to come back in 30 days and reinspect. But the inspector told Young that day
Next
she would
day.
be back the next day.
Yeah.
And what we don't want to happen is community partners step up and they lose their livelihood, or because it's not just their livelihood, it's their employees that they staff. And so I didn't want that to happen. So it was like kind of scrambling, but we already had a plan. And I want to give a shout out to all the volunteers and partners, the Jeepers, everybody that came, because I literally sent a message out in our group chat and said, I need all hands on deck right now at Streetery.
And they
I will
showed
brief
up.
everyone. Within 20 minutes, I have 50 volunteers there.
That's power. Those you mentioned the Jeepers, Jonathan Dunn, his crew, and those Jeepers. Man, I get emotional thinking about what they did. They reached out and said, "How can we help?" And
we put them to work. You can reach
Yeah.
out and ask how you can help. We're gonna put you to work.
we're gonna find something for you to do. But it's just
But I'm also confused because those permits, I mean, you hear about the snowstorm maybe a week in advance. There's no way that government's going to get a permit
Well,
cleared.
the issue is also too, because when I asked for an emergency help to put this in place, we were told that Nina Mosley with Wayside Christian Mission had told Nicole George that they had 30 beds available. And one of the things that is a big problem, has been a big problem, is the breakdown in communication. If you're doing outreach and you're a regular citizen who is experiencing houselessness, we are told to go through single point of entry with Coalition for the Homeless. That is the bed reservation line. If we call them, we are always told that there are no beds. They can show up at XYZ. And then also family shelters have wait lists. I do know that the city has a plan in place. They've been trying to work with families and hotels and stuff like that. But we haven't always had a contact person. This is stuff that we've obtained over the last week or so. But when it comes to the process, when it comes like city officials and things like that, there is a breakdown in communication, because the city leaders who help send this funding to individuals that call them, they get one answer, but in real life, when we call, it's something totally different. And that's why with House Bill 5, like you said, it's really important to bring people like me and other people who do this work to the table, because this is expertise. And this is not, one thing I said a lot this week was, I have education, I have experience, and then I also have lived experience. And those things there, money can't buy.
Well, I'm hoping, and I know Jared Bauman, Representative Bauman, he's a very nice guy. So I think he would be willing to sit down and listen and see if there's any modifications we can make. And again, we can't criminalize unhoused people. We have to figure out what the solution is. And, in a perfect world, I'll give you a couple minutes. In a perfect world, what would you do? Would there be a place where if somebody picked up an unhoused person, instead of taking them to jail, take them someplace that they could maybe get warm, get food, and maybe get some long-term assistance? Or what would be the answer?
So it's a very complex issue.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
It's not a one-size-fits-all. And I think, starting with the places that our government funds, putting in audit systems, making sure that money is being spent the way it is supposed to be spent. And I want to say something. Southend Street Angels receives zero funding from city, state, or federal. We are sustained for the last 8 years by our community. And I think that's freaking amazing. Like,
yeah, I watch you. You'll have somebody that's unhoused and say, we need to put this person in a hotel, and you'll post, and you'll raise the money in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's incredible to watch. That means people trust you.
Yeah.
So that's incredible.
We may not post photos of everything we do.
No.
But, that didn't happen at the beginning.
No, I know.
It goes off of, people witnessing the work and showing. And I tell people all the time, if you want to see what we do, come join us. Yep. Come join us, because the impact in person is totally different than seeing a picture.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing incredible work. I see a lot of things coming your way. And what you're doing is so passionate. And, we talk about being a compassionate city, but I think you're really proving that that can happen if handled correctly. And what's your donation info? So if somebody wants to donate to Southend Street Angels, what can they do? Do you have a website? Do you have a logo? We looked all over for a logo, didn't see one. So
I like that one.
All right. Well, Ryan created that one, so we might make Ryan's on. He does Ryan Murphy Wax Factory, one of the most amazing bands in Louisville. He's very talented with video production and graphics. So I'll see if Ryan can create you one here soon.
Yeah, and honestly, we started out. It was just an idea. We wanted the community that we live in to be better. I want it to be better for my kids. They're growing up here, And so we never expected to get to this point. But no, we don't have a website. We have Facebook. Facebook has been a free platform. It has worked. And so we do. We have a Zeffy. So if you want a tax exempt, it
Well,
produces a receipt.
Ryan is on here. He's in my ear. We can probably stand up a simple website and create some sort of link through Shirley's Way so people can make donations online. Maybe we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
Yeah. Well, amazing story. I'm just baffled about what you were able to pull off over the past week and a half.
Yeah, I've heard.
And I think it just shows that if one person is passionate enough, they can change the world. And you're definitely having that effect on people.
You know, when I was in third grade, Miss Brown, she's no longer with us, rest her soul, but she asked me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And it was a small town in Grafton, Illinois. It's primarily a Caucasian population. And I stood up and I put my chest out and I said, "I want to be one of the greatest humanitarians who ever lived. I want to be like Susan."
What grade?
Third.
Wow.
I said, "I want to be like Susan B. Anthony, Dr. Martin Luther King, and Princess Diana."
I wanted to be in the NFL. It didn't work out.
Didn't work out. It's okay. But she laughed at me. And then the class laughed at me and she told me to sit down. And, you know,
Talk about encouraging.
Yeah. And so, you know, throughout my life, you know, I really thought that I was a nobody. I thought nothing mattered. You know, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't even have a plastic spoon in my mouth. And so I learned as I went on, you know, it started with Matt Reed and then my math teacher. And then over the years, and most recently, I got to give a shout out to Mike. Not only has he supported the Street Angels efforts, that's the most support I've had since I started. I'm going to get emotional, but he's also helped me with my professional development, my approach, because sometimes when you're passionate as I am, come across as aggressive or angry and difficult to work with. And that was never the intention of anything that I've done. But you really are my big brother now. Like, I don't just freely say that, and I don't tell people I love them unless I mean it. But I'm truly grateful for you. You have changed my life, and you've given me the courage, because before now, when we went to Walmart and I cleared that shelf, I know you thought I was crazy when I was like, "I need you to record this." They were $2.50 fleece blankets, but I was like, "Man, I'm about to clear this whole shelf." And he did it.
It was a fun picture. It was a fun video, though, for sure.
And in that moment, I watched my daughter's face explode with smiles. I watched Josh Bass, his face bust out in a smile. And I looked around and I look at Mike and they're all smiling. And I was like, I wanted everyone to feel in that moment. I never thought I would be able to be in a position, but because people believed in me along the way, supported me when others wouldn't, or defended my name in rooms that I couldn't be in or at tables I didn't sit at. I wouldn't be able to do this. And none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for our community coming together. I cannot do this by myself. And that's what I want the message to be when we leave here today. Even if you don't want to volunteer with Street Angels, even if you don't want to do homeless outreach, find somewhere that you are passionate and go out and birth greatness into the world.
Well, I appreciate you being humble, but you led the efforts. And Kelly is like a daughter to me. I tell her that all the time. And I was going to say you're like a sister, but I think you're probably young enough to be a daughter to me as well. I'm kind of old.
Call you big brother.
I know.
I'm 38, so
yeah.
Mike's a lot older.
I could probably be close to being your dad. So,
I'm gonna start calling him dad, y'all.
We do love you so much. What you've done is incredible, and we got a surprise for you. Hold on, just a second.
Uh-oh. I'm scared.
Wow.
Again. I appreciate you all so much. They have supported me so much.
We're giving you $10,000 to continue doing what you're doing, the compliments of Shirley's Way Charitable Gaming, and just keep doing what you're doing. You know, we've got your back. We're going to help you any way we can. And your passion is incredible for this city and the people that are desperately in need. You know, you mentioned that teacher. If you ever, I'm drawing a blank. Derek, that played for Doss, played for UK. Anyway, he's got a book out. I'll think of his last name. He's one of my favorite UK basketball players. He was basically houseless. The coaches let him sleep in the locker rooms at Doss High School because he had nowhere to go. And I think teachers, if you really think about the impact you're having in this world, one of the first things you brought up was a third grade teacher that impacted you kind of in a negative way. So think about teachers, what you can do and the impact you have. I've said this multiple times. A teacher that has always touched me was Becky Tuttle. I'll never forget her. She was a great human being. And
Also a math teacher at PRP.
yeah.
What's up with you math teachers?
I
Math
don't
teachers
know.
at PRP,
I
shout
know.
out.
You knew Miss Becky
I did,
Tuttle.
yeah.
You talk about a great human being. And I've never gotten in trouble, but she could see I was heading down the wrong path and pulled me to the side and said, "You're better than that. You need to get away from those people." And it was just a simple discussion.
She's actually volunteered with us a few times.
She has. She's an
Full
amazing.
circle.
So my point is that teacher had an interesting impact on you, told you, kind of shunned you, told you to sit down. And if she'd have handled it differently, things may have been different early on in your life. So
But I'm thankful for my math teacher, Steve Heber, who did believe in me
there you go.
and
There you go.
flipped the script. So.
We're back here squeaking with the checks. So anyway, I know you can use it. It's going to be great for what you're doing, and we're excited to work with you all, and we're going to continue as long as we can. So thanks for coming on today.
And I want y'all to know Mike was out there, boots on the ground too. So, and one thing that I love about Mike, he's much like me when it comes to leading. We won't ask anyone to do anything we're not willing to do ourselves. So it means a lot to see you lead your army as well, and setting the example. So
yeah, I got busted last week. I had no idea she took the picture, but she called me out. I had a shovel in my hand trying to clean the walkway into Shirley's Deals, and but you're right. I don't.
You'll clean toilets, sweep the floor.
I cleaned up puke this weekend after the Cabo party.
that's
so
hilarious.
yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks so much, Amanda. We love you. Amazing work you're doing, and we're looking forward to continue working with
Absolutely. And thank you to the community again for showing out
you.
or showing up and showing out. We got work to do over the next few weeks. I will be working to help implement new policies, procedures, change ordinances, and also maybe legislation and laws on a state and federal level.
That's
So
always a fun thing to track down, but you're on it already. That's pretty incredible.
I'm prepared.
All right. We're going to help you. Thanks so much.
Thank
Thank
you all.
you.
See ya.